Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew, and I'm your host for this afternoon's webinar from What on Earth, where we'll be unveiling some amazing facts from our books and magazine. I'm also, as maybe you can tell from this stylish, reflective jacket that I'm wearing, I'm also your quiz master, because a key part of the session today, a bit later on, is we'll be doing some amazing fact and trivia testing of you with our interactive quiz. But before that, let me introduce our two special guests for today. We have Dr. Letizia Diamante, the
Hello.
author of Open Wide,
Hello.
and Christopher Lloyd, the CEO, founder of What on Earth Books and Magazines, and also the author of the brilliant Absolutely Everything. So first of all, I'm going to hand over to Chris and share my screen. And Chris is going to tell you a little more about What on Earth Publishing. And we make books and magazines. And Chris is going to explain they're all nonfiction, and Chris is going to tell you a bit more about them. Here they are.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Welcome, everybody. Lovely to see you. Yes, my name is Chris, and we believe, and some of you might agree, some of you may not agree, but we really passionately believe that the real world is even more amazing than anything you can make up. And if you can imagine just almost being really young, like a young child, exploring the world around you, trying to work out where it fits in, trying to see the world from different perspectives, etc., etc. Well, that's what we're really all about. And what we want to do is to try and feed that natural curiosity that we're all born with, so that you don't think about reading as just something you have to do because an adult tells you you've got to learn how to read. No. Reading is a way to find out more about what you're interested in. And that's what we try to do with all our books and magazines. Behind every single book and every magazine is a question. What are you interested in? Because when you start to find out about what you're interested in, you start to learn about yourself. And then you start to learn things that other people don't know. And then when you tell them things and they don't know it, they think, wow, you're clever. And it builds up your confidence. And you start to hear your voice out loud. And you start to become an expert in something. And then you're on a pathway to being your own self-learning system, to having a love of learning, because you've discovered what you're interested in. And one of the most powerful ways of getting onto this pathway of well-being and a sense of purpose and love of living is to do it through reading, because reading gives you access. It's like a magic key to a whole universe of information about whatever it is you're interested in. So when adults say to you, this is what you need to know, actually what we're saying to you is, it doesn't matter what you know. The question is, what are you interested in? And then here's how you can find out more. And that is the power of nonfiction. And this is Nonfiction November. Every year we have a whole month where we celebrate reading for pleasure by developing a love of learning. And this is where quizzes come in, because all the information in the quizzes that Andrew is going to share with you later on in this session come from our books and from our magazines. And how are you going to find out the answers? Well, why not read and find out things that other people don't know? So we're really grateful to the Reading Agency, because as you can tell, what we do with our books and magazines is exactly aligned with what the Reading Agency is all about, which is trying to encourage parents and teachers and children to have a love of learning through reading. And nothing is better than focusing on the real world, which is more amazing than anything you can make up.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Chris. That's very exciting. We will hear more from Chris later and his book, Absolutely Everything. But now on to our first celebrity guest author, Dr. Letizia Diamante, who's going to tell us all about her book, Open Wide.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. So I wanted to tell you how the idea of Open Wide came about. Could you go to the next slide? Yes, so Open Wide is all about the mouth, the teeth, the tongues, and saliva, spit of different animals as well as your own. And I had this idea because I was thinking, when I was a child, I really disliked pulling out my milk teeth. And everybody was telling me, don't worry, new teeth will appear. You will have a better smile, don't worry. And I was, okay. Also, I really didn't like the dentist. So I thought, okay, every child in the world will go through that process of pulling out milk teeth. And I was wondering, okay, so then what happens in the animal kingdom? Can I find something funny that children can enjoy reading about the mouth? And yes, I can tell you, I found a lot of fun facts about the mouth. Next slide, please.
The little delay, but
No
it's
worries.
coming soon.
Yeah, so I went to a lot of museums. I searched online. I asked to some vets, but the museums were really fascinating. Like I could see so many skulls, so many teeth. Oh, here you can see me in different museums. And, you know, I saw like the teeth of the T-Rex. And when you see the T-Rex standing up over there, it looks big, but when you have a model of the T-Rex teeth in front of you, oh my God, it looks really huge. And then you see that animal on the top, I guess for you is top left. So that one is whale from the past, is extinct, is called Leviathan. And you can see the difference, like the teeth of that animal were a little bit cylindrical, rounded, so a bit different from, for example, shark teeth that are triangular. So, you know, teeth are connected with eating, drinking, speaking in case of humans, etc., etc. But then there are many other examples that are a bit special. Can you move to the next slide? These are my favorite examples. So these are these are examples of how animals use their mouth to do something unbelievable. So the first example is a fish, lives in Hawaii, and is good to use the Hawaiian name, is Hohopu no Pili. I know it sounds a bit funny, but Hawaiian people really like if you use the traditional name. And this fish can climb waterfalls. I know you cannot believe it, but it's true. So hatches in streams, then is washed to the ocean, and then has to go back. So, but to go back, it means you have to fight against the current, and you would have waterfalls in front of you. So how can this poor fish climb waterfalls? So the secret is that it has two suckers, one in the belly and one in the mouth. And it's even more incredible because the mouth that normally sits, you know, on the top has to move slightly towards the belly, and then the fish finally can climb. The second example that I really love is the hamster. So the hamster has pouches to be able to move food around and keep it dry. So usually the hamster will eat a lot, but it doesn't really eat. It just keeps it in the mouth for a while and then brings it to another space. And these cheeks are elastic, so they become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So they become 3 times as big. And then the third example is a lovely bird in Asia is the tailor bird. And you see, so it will choose a very large leaf and then use some plant fiber or the spider's web to create a really nice nest for itself. Could you go on? So these are all examples of the mouse that maybe you didn't know before. And the book not only has a lot of fun facts, but also guessing games. This is one example, for example, is about the beaks. So the beaks is another huge story, actually. So did you know that we don't know exactly when birds lost their teeth to have beaks or something like that? So I was also surprised, and but there are some fossils of prehistorical creatures that have both the beak with teeth. But today's birds don't have teeth. So how is that? Yeah, so beaks come in all sorts of shapes and forms and colors also. And here you have a guessing game, for example. So just from the beak, you can maybe guess what animal it is. And then we can go on. You can pretend to be a bit like maybe like Darwin, because also Darwin looked at several birds with different beaks, and then he came up with the theory of evolution. So Yeah, you can do a little bit like Darwin. And finally, yes, I wanted to say a few words about the shark, because the shark is on the cover of the book, and it's a fantastic cover. It was illustrated by a really talented illustrator called Ed J. Brown. And look at the shark. So the shark loses a lot of teeth in its lifetime, thousands. So I don't tell you the exact number because you will find it in the book. And why is that? Just because it has so many teeth hidden inside the mouth, and when one gets damaged, flip, the new one comes out. That's as simple as that. So I don't know. I think my time is up, and I will pass it on. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Letizia. Well, as you say, it's a fantastic book. I have a copy at home myself. The illustrations are amazing and the facts. And we're going to hear from Letizia later because I hope you are paying close attention. There are some questions related to teeth and mouths of animals will be popping up in our quiz. But before that, we meet we re-meet our second celebrity author, Christopher Lloyd, the author of Absolutely Everything. Chris, tell us about this amazing book.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Yeah, what a pleasure it is to be able to share this with you. So one of the things about nonfiction that it seems to me really important is that when I was at school, and it's probably true for anybody listening here, is that there's this tendency to divide knowledge up into different subjects. You know, that we have English, we have maths, we have geography, we have history, we have science, we have dancing, we have music, and all that kind of stuff. Now, it occurred to me, the older I get, the more I realize that's not nonfiction. Even though it's about knowledge, that's fiction, because the real world isn't divided up into different subjects. I mean, you don't walk down the high street and there's a bit of science and a bit of maths and a bit of geography and a bit of history and a bit of dancing. And nor, if you ask a neuroscientist, who's someone who studies the brain, how does my brain work? Which is, by the way, a really interesting question. I promise you, your brain isn't divided up into different subjects. You don't have a bit of science and a bit of history and a bit of maths and a bit of art and a bit of dancing. No, your brain loves making connections. And every time you realize something that is connected, that you didn't think was connected before, you get a little shot of joy. Wow. And in fact, our jokes and the reason we laugh is a lot to do with the fact that your brain is making connections about things it didn't realize. You know, like, for example, and in the back of our What on Earth magazine here, we have a brilliant jokes page, which I love every month because it's making connections. And one of my favorites is this one. What do you call a magic? What do you call a magic tractor? No, what? Did you hear the story about the magic tractor? It went down the road and it turned into a field. Now, I don't know whether you get that straight away. It didn't turn into a butterfly. It turned into a field. Now, just the fact that the brain is making these connections, it makes you smile. It gives you joy. That's what Absolutely Everything is all about, making connections between things to tell you an amazing story. And I thought, what is the most amazing story? It must be the story of everything from the beginning of time, which scientists believe happened 13.8 billion years ago with the Big Bang, all the way to the present day. How could you do that in one book to make all those connections? And you'll see on the next slide, there's a sort of contents page, which is a really important page of any non-fiction book, because it gives you like a map, really. And what I've tried to do here is show you, look, we've got 16 chapters here, and they will take you from nothing in chapter 1 to something, which is the Big Bang. And then we're going to begin to see the beginning of the birth of the world, the beginning of life, and then a really important moment when life comes out of the sea and onto the land, which is why chapter 2 is called Land Ahoy. And then we get the rule of the dinosaurs. Then we get the first early human-like creatures. And then we get the beginning of farming, which are called Seeds of Change. And then we've got nature shaping ancient civilizations, the first religions, philosophies, how amazing things like Christianity and Islam reshape the world, which you can see in chapter 9. And then inventions like gunpowder and compasses and paper, which come from China, transform the rest of the world. And then we go into the Middle Ages, and then we get colonialism, where Europe starts to exert its influence across the world for good and for ill. And then revolutions, scientific revolutions, industrial revolutions, French revolutions, German revolutions, Russian revolutions, everything's in revolutions. And then, unfortunately, the world descends into world wars, which you will have heard about, I'm sure. Let's hope that we never get another one. And then we march through into our current century in chapter 15, and chapter 16, most important, is the story isn't over. And I think that's the most amazing thing about the book. Thank goodness that the world hasn't come to an end. What's going to happen next? To be continued. What are the things that are happening now that are going to shape the story for the rest of your lives and generations to come? So you can see what I mean by making connections. And I've just got 4 tiny little stories because there are so many in this book that I've shared with you. This one, I wanted to introduce you to this amazing creature. Letizia showed you some beautiful stories of birds and fish that do amazing things. This is an ancient creature called Tiktaalik that lived about 470 million years ago on the top left of the screen. It looks like a sort of crocodile, but it's not actually. It's like a fish that's turning into a creature that can live on the land. And it's experimenting. One of the first vertebrates to come out of the sea onto the land was this one called Tiktaalik. And scientists have found the fossils of this creature in an island off Canada called Ellesmere Island. And in the frozen island habitat, they found these fossils. And to their amazement, they're the first ever evidence in this fish-like creature of ankle and wrist bones in its fins. Now, why do we have wrists? The reason is that our ancestors, the first vertebrates that came out of the sea, when they came out of the sea, in order to be able to move around, they had to be able to do a push-up. Because in the sea, fish don't need to do a push-up because the water pushes them up. That's called buoyancy. But if you come out of the water onto the land, you have to push yourself up. To do that, and you can try this at home, by the way, it's perfectly safe, you'll have to do a press-up. When you do a press-up, you'll realize how important it is to have wrists and ankles. And that's why we have wrists and ankles. It goes back over 400 million years to our ancestors when they came out of the sea and onto the land. There's Tiktaalik. There's a connection between you today and something that happened 400 million years ago. All right, let's have a look at our next little story from Absolutely Everything. Takes us to the world of ancient China. This is one of my favorite works of art, which I've discovered. It's over 1,000 years old. It's a silk banner. On this banner that you can see, there is a figure called the Buddha. Now, you may have heard of the Buddha. He was very much, Buddhism was spreading from Japan all the way throughout the world. And this silk banner was found in the deserts of China, dating back to about 950 AD or CE, as it's called now. And it's the first ever depiction of gunpowder being used in anger. The Chinese invented gunpowder, originally by a mistake, it is said, and originally they used it for fireworks as celebrations. And then someone realized that you could threaten somebody with gunpowder. Of course, we're used to that in our world today with weapons and armaments, and how different the world would be if there were no weapons and armaments. Much better, you might think, but nevertheless, that's the world we live in today. Where did that come from? Well, actually, here in this picture, you can see on the right some devils who are trying to disrupt the Buddha with his meditation. And you'll see there's a devil there with some snakes coming out of his eyes, some horns out of his head, and he's holding a little lit bomb, which is going to lob at the Buddha. And there's another one above him holding a flamethrower. I hope you can see that there on your small screens. But it's an amazing story of how history is told through art over hundreds and more than 1,000 years to give us a clue as to how our world has been shaped, not just by the world around us here in England, but by people in ancient China, more than 1,000 years ago. Okay, on to our next slide as we connect things together. Oh, here we are. In fact, this is our last slide I'm going to show you. At the right at the end of the book, there's this very special picture that was taken by some astronauts when they first went to the moon. And you probably know who the first astronaut on the moon is, Neil Armstrong. There have been 12 people who've been to the moon, all of them men. So we're still looking for the first woman to tread on the moon. It'll be amazing. It'll happen in your lifetimes, I'm sure. Maybe it'll be one of you watching this little show that we're having today. Who knows? Anyway, this picture is special because when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins took this photo, they're the first people ever to see something that nobody had ever seen before, and that is Earthrise. If you think about it, for millions of years, us and our ancestors have seen the moon rise, we've seen the sun rise, but it wasn't till the late 1960s, early 1970s, when astronauts went to the moon that they could see the Earth rise. Imagine seeing the blue jewel of the planet Earth in the blackness of space, rising up, looking so vulnerable, looking so kind of isolated. And on that planet are billions of people, 8 billion people, 24 billion chickens. And all the water and all the trees and all the buildings and all the roads and all the ants, everything you can imagine on this tiny little isolated planet in the blackness of space. How would you feel? It makes you feel how special is our planet Earth. When you see the big picture, when you connect things together, And that's why, for me, nonfiction and connecting knowledge together is the key to developing a love of learning and a lifetime where you will be the explorers in this extraordinary experience that we're having, which is living here in planet Earth. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Chris. We've heard from two amazing authors about two amazing books, and now it is time for the quiz. So get your pens and pencils and your whiteboards ready, and I'll explain the rules. Now, first of all the questions, well, most of the questions come from this book, which you can see in front of you, which I'm the co-author of. It's called Britannica's Encyclopedia Infographica, and it's full of something called infographics. Now, you might have heard this word before, but you might not have, and that's no problem, because we can all work out what it means from the name, from the word infographic. So what is an infographic? Well, the first half of the word is info. So that means information or data, as often we call it in infographics. And graphic means something that is visual, that is brought to life with pictures. So every page of this book tells you fascinating information about the world through pictures. Now, you might not have heard the word infographic, but actually infographics are all around you. So, and when you do charts and tables and things in maths, they are all infographics. They are showing information visually. Maps, when you have, here's a map of the London Underground. Now, and on the right, I'm sure you're familiar with this, is an instruction for assembling a Lego kit. Now, that is also an infographic. And what I'd like you to think about is, imagine if we weren't able to tell these stories visually. Imagine if you got your Lego set for Christmas and you unwrapped it, and instead of the lovely infographic visual guide to what all the pieces look like and how you put them together, imagine if it was just all written out, only with words. Each piece had to be described. Oh, you know, the yellow one with 4 bits. No, with 5 bits. And you stick that next to the book to explain how to make your Lego kit will go on for pages and pages and pages. But this lovely, simple infographic makes the story clear to you. And that's what this book is all about. So inside the book, we have chapters on space, as you can see here, on the natural world, the tallest trees in the world, how many bees it takes to create a single drop of honey. We have Earth, amazing things like volcanoes. We have a chapter on the human body. We have some questions on this coming up in the quiz. We have a chapter on the human world, so music and vehicles and emails and technology, all the things that us humans do here on planet Earth. So some of these facts about all these things will be coming up in the quiz. Right, are you ready? Here are the rules. There are 12 questions, 1 mark for each question. They are all multiple choice. So for each question, we will give you A, B, C, or D. And so all you have to do is pick and write down on the question number and then the letter that you choose. You don't need to write out the full answer. You just put the letter you want to pick. And of course, because it's multiple choice, if you don't know the answer, don't worry. Have an educated guess. Have your best guess. You could well be right. Right. So what is our first question? It is about space. The question is, how far away is the moon from us here on planet Earth? Now, the options are A, 84,000 kilometers, B, 184,000 kilometers, C, 284,000 kilometers, or the biggest of all, D, 384,000 kilometers. Now, to give you an idea, 1,000 kilometers is about like driving from the bottom of the UK up to the north, the top tip of Scotland. So that's just 1,000. So write down your letters, A, B, C, or D. The answer is coming up very shortly. Okay, you got like 5 seconds. Here we go. I can reveal all those people who put down the answer D are correct. Well done to you. So the answer is 340,000 kilometers, which is a really long way, but it's a kind of big number. It's such a big number, it doesn't really make sense. But here in the book, we make sense of it visually. So what you can see on the screen in front of you, on the very left, you can see planet Earth of the page. And on the right, little small gray circle is the moon. And amazingly, if you took every single planet in the solar system and lined it up perfectly, almost touching, or in fact touching, they would fit, all of them, exactly in the gap between the Earth and the moon. So you would get Jupiter and Saturn and all the other planets, which shows you actually the moon is a lot further away from Earth than you might think. Okay, time for the next question. This is about the human body. It's about snot or mucus, which I'm sure you all know lots about. So How many cups of snot does your body produce each day? This is both in your nose, but also you make mucus in your throat and down in your stomach. So it's probably a bit more than you're thinking. Your options are A, 3 cups of snot. B, 5 cups of snot. C, 7 cups of snot. Or if you're feeling really snotty and you have a cold, maybe it's up to 9 cups of snot. Okay, we have a few seconds to have a think about it. Guess your answers if you're not sure, but all you need to write down is A, B, C, or D next to the question. Okay, a few more seconds to get your answers down. And now I can reveal that the answer is 5 cups of snot. So answer B. And here you can see on the left-hand page that is illustrated in rather disgusting fashion. We also wanted to find out, snot and mucus actually is a very useful substance that your body produces that helps bacteria and other things you might not want getting in to get out. So we worked out as well, if you make 5 cups every day, that means in your lifetime, you make 209 bathtubs of snot. Imagine that. Absolutely revolting. Next question. Okay, on to animals now from our animals chapter. On average, which animal do you think sleeps for the longest each day? So I'm not thinking about hibernating animals. I'm thinking about just during a 24-hour period. Do you think it's A, a koala, a famously sleepy animal? B, is it a lion? So he likes to have a nap. Is it C, a mouse? Or D, a python? So actually all those animals are known for their sleepy behavior, but which one do you think sleeps the longest period in a given day? Okay, get your answers down. You've got a few more seconds, and I'm going to reveal the answer and who is correct. Okay, so if you put down answer A, the koala, then you are correct. And you can see all those animals listed on this page, and there's little clocks that show you how many hours per day they sleep. So the koala, you can see on the bottom right, sleeps for an amazing 20 hours a day. Has to spend a lot of time digesting its food, the eucalyptus leaves. It takes a lot of energy to digest. So it sleeps most of the day. And on the left, actually, is a nice fact that dolphins sleep with one eye open, so they can keep an eye out for potential predators in the sea. So this page is all about amazing facts about animals' sleep. Okay, we have, I think, one more question before we then go to our open wide round. So this question, we wanted to work out how many people do you think are flying up in the sky right now? So I don't mean flying like birds, just taking off. I mean up in planes. So you think, if you live near a city, you see planes taking off all the time. There are planes crisscrossing the world. But if you added up all the people in all the planes right at this moment, how many would there be? So A, 15,000 people, which is like the population of a decent sized town. Is it B, 150,000 people? It's getting up to the size of a city. C, is it 1.5 million people? Well, that's really quite a big city. Or is it D, 15 million people, which would be the size of one of the biggest cities in the world? So think about all the planes you see. Think about when you go to an airport, how many planes you can see and how many you see taking off. What do you think is the number of human beings who are up in the sky right now? Okay, again, you've got 5 seconds, should we say? Get your answers down. Pens and paper. Okay, I can tell you that the answer is C, 1.5 million people. And to work this out, when we were creating the book, we got in touch with an aeroplane agency who sent us this map. It's hard to see, but all the yellow bits are made up of tiny little pictures of aeroplanes. So each one, if you zoom right in, you would see a little picture of an aeroplane, and that represents a real aeroplane that was in the sky at the moment. They took this picture almost, this map of the world. So in the bits that you can see over Europe and North America where it's all yellow, it's because there are planes absolutely everywhere. So in fact, there's the population of a really quite big city like Birmingham up in the sky right now, flying around the world. Okay, sorry, one final question on animals before we go to open wide. And this is about jumping animals. Now, relative to the size of its body, which animal do you think can jump the furthest? So relative to the size of the body means that just because it's a small animal, if it goes a relatively big distance compares to its own body size, it could still be the winner. So it's not necessarily going to be the biggest animal that wins. Okay, your options are A, the flea, famous for jumping. B, the kangaroo, famous for hopping. C, the grasshopper, also a famous jumper. Or D, a mammal, a big cat, the snow leopard. Now, which of these animals do you think can jump the furthest in proportion to its body? Okay, few more seconds to go. Get your answers down. A, B, C, or D. What are you going to go for? Okay, I'm just going to reveal this with the picture when I flick next. So 3 seconds to go. 3, 2, 1. The answer is a flea. Answer A. So there we have a picture of the massively zoomed in picture of a flea. And you can see, so it can jump about 50 centimeters, which is 200 times the size of its body. And again, that number doesn't make an awful lot of sense. So we thought, let's put it into context for you visually. If you look at the bottom right-hand section of the screen, you will see a little picture of a human being jumping over some football pitches. And that is what that's telling you, is that if you could jump as far as a flea could in proportion to the size of your body, that would be like you leaping from a standing start and covering 3.5 football pitches laid end to end. Imagine doing that, how impressive that would be. Well, that's what the flea does all the time. Okay, right. We're now moving on from the Infographica round. I'm going to hand over to Letizia, who's going to give you some questions from Open Wide. So I hope you were paying attention earlier.
Hi again. Hi again. So, okay. Which animals replace their milk teeth with adult teeth? A, only humans. B, most mammals. C, all mammals. So, are you ready? We can go to the next slide. It's most mammals. So most mammals have 2 sets of teeth, like us. So baby teeth and adult teeth. But then there are mammals like the elephants. They have more than 2 sets. They have maybe 5 or 6 sets. And then there are other animals that have only 1 set, like squirrels and like dolphins. And then here you have 3 examples of mammals that have no teeth at all. So the anteaters has a very long tongue, but no teeth. Platypus, again, very special type of mouse, not real teeth, more like grinding pad. And then some whales. Some whales have teeth, but some whales, no, they don't have. They have baleen. And if you go to the next slide, so I told you I like to go to museums. So in this museum in Sweden, I just put my phone inside the mouth of a young blue whale that you see there. And you can see these are the baleen. They're not teeth, but yeah, they are used for filtering food. And next one. Okay, there is an animal that eats the tongue of another animal and then takes its place. True or false? Okay, so this is not for the squeamish. So next slide. Yes, so it's so-called tongue-eating louse, and you can see it inside the mouth of a fish. So what happens is it's not for the squeamish. So like close your ears if you don't want to hear. It's really a little bit creepy. So this little creature enters inside the body of the fish, and then it cuts the blood vessel that connects the tongue with the body, and then the tongue is out, and it takes the place of the tongue of the fish. And most of the times, the fish is fine, survives, fine, no problem. So it's a parasite. But yeah, it's a funny one. Okay, next one. So which animals can replace their teeth regularly? A, sharks. B, dinosaurs. C, crocodile. D, vipers. And E, all of the above. Have a think. Okay, time is up. Next slide. It's all of the above. And here I put the picture of the shark that you saw a little bit before as well. So this is a great white shark, and they have a lot of teeth. Okay, so next one. Oh, I love this one. Which is the most fearsome and successful hunter? So the tiger, A. B. The lion, C. The dragonfly. I hope you got this one correctly. So next slide. Ta-da, the dragonfly. So tigers hunt alone. Lions hunt in groups. Tigers usually are less successful than lions, but really nobody really knows. So maybe success rate between 5 and 50%. Lions, they did a study on lions in Africa, in Uganda, and they saw the lion is rather successful when hunting buffaloes, a little bit less successful with other animals, maybe 30% on average. But the dragonfly, oh my God, the dragonfly is basically always successful, 95% success rate. So like unbelievable. So if you are if you're an insect and you are close to a dragonfly, I'm sorry, maybe your life is going to be short. So next one, yeah. So
Brilliant.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for your open wide round. That was great. Now we're back with the Infographica. Now we have 3 questions to go. And then there is going to be a bonus question at the end as a tiebreaker in case we have any people on level scores. So this is all about kind of the natural world and space. Which of these 4 things do you think reaches the hottest temperature? So here are your options. A, the surface of the sun. That's a pretty hot place, as you can imagine. B, a bolt of lightning. So it fires down from the sky. C, the center of the earth, full of molten lava and hot rocks and metal. Or D, burnt toast, which also can be quite painful when it pops out of the toaster too early. I'm sure you've experienced that. So what do you think of these? All very hot things, but which reaches the hottest temperature? Okay, give you a few seconds to think about. So we'll try and weigh it up. Get your answers down, A, B, C, or D. And I'm going to reveal the answer to this one. The hottest of these 4 things is a bolt of lightning. Rather surprising, which is amazing. A bolt of lightning is in fact 5 times hotter than the surface of the sun. And here, this is our page. We're all about lightning and thunder, and we find the biggest lightning bolt, the longest lightning bolt ever, the longest flash of lightning, which lasted for 17 seconds, which is extraordinary. The other amazing fact I found out about lightning when we were researching this book is that although it looks so big and dramatic as it arcs across the sky, a bolt of lightning is actually only the width of my thumb. It's just about 2 or 3 centimeters wide, but it's so bright. There's so much energy and electricity that obviously it creates a huge bright impression, and you see it from a distance and think, wow, that's amazing. But actually it's a very thin bolt of energy. Okay, next question. 2 to go. Now this is about the human body again. So have a think about this. If you never, ever cut your hair for your whole lifetime, you never went to the hairdressers, you never went to the barber, how long do you think it would grow in your whole lifetime? Okay, your options are 3 meters, which is already quite a bit taller than you, so it'll be onto the ground, even as a grown-up. B, is it 5 meters? This would be quite inconvenient. You'd have to have it in some kind of bun formation. C, 11 meters, which is now getting a bit ridiculous. Or D, absolutely enormous hair that's following you down the street. Is it 16 meters? So I'll give you a little clue is that your hair grows a bit faster at the start, and then after it's got to a certain length, it slows down. But I know some of you might have never cut your hair and be growing it long, and it goes down your back. So try and think, in your whole lifetime, how far do you think it would reach? Okay, a few more seconds. Get your answers down. A, B, C, or D. The answer is C, 11 meters. And you can see this picture on the light. You see the diagram of the man with a very long, wavy hair? That's exactly what you would look like if you never, ever cut your hair. And just on the right, next to that, you can see something interesting. You see those lines, those red lines, and there's a hand at the very bottom of the page. So that is how long your fingernails would grow if you never, ever cut or clip them again. They would be 3 meters long. Although the only difference is they wouldn't grow exactly straight. You might have seen pictures. When they get to a certain length, they start to curl round, which and go into a kind of spiral formation, which it looks impressive, but obviously it's very hard to do lots of things like type or eat or pick your nose. So I do advise cutting both your hair and nails. Little tip. Right, the final question of the main quiz. How many stars the size of our sun would fit inside the biggest star in the universe? Now, our sun obviously is a big thing, and it's the biggest, by far the biggest object in our own solar system. But actually, to give you a clue, it's only a medium-sized star if you're looking at all the stars in the universe. Okay, so what we're saying is we have found the biggest known star in the whole universe, and we're trying to work out how many of our suns, which is smaller, would fit inside the biggest sun, the biggest star ever discovered. So your options are A, 5,000 of our suns, B, 500,000. You're already getting a sense this big sun star is enormous. It has to be enormous. Is it C, 5 million, or D, 5 billion? So these are your options. A, 5,000, B, 500,000, C, 5 million, or D, 5 billion. Okay, so this is the final question. Get your answers down. The answer is D, 5 billion, which is an absolutely mind-boggling fact. And we tried to show it on this page. Now, the big yellow patch section of the page, you can see it slightly curved at the bottom. We couldn't fit it all on the page, clearly. This is part of UY Scuti. This is the biggest star. It's in the Milky Way. It's part of our own galaxy. It's the biggest star that astronomers have yet to find. And it is so big. I don't know if you can see this on your screens, but towards the bottom of the page, in the black section, there's a little red dot. Well, that dot is our sun. That's how small our sun would be in our solar system if you put it next to UY Scuti, the biggest star in the universe. It's amazing and far easier to show you visually than just to say the number, which is 5 billion, which is hard to get your head around. We actually wanted to also put the Earth on this spread, on these pages. So you would see UY Scuti in big yellow, the little red dot of the sun, and then there was going to be an even smaller blue dot, which would show the Earth. But it was so small, the printer said you won't even see it. So we had to stop that. That's how tiny the Earth is. It doesn't even show up as a speck on this page. Right, so that is the end of the quiz. Total up your marks. We're going to have a final tiebreaker. Now, this isn't multiple choice. This is where you have to guess the answer. And so in your class or whoever you're doing the quiz with, whoever gets closest to the number out of all of you gets the point. So what the question is, you can see from our little character here on the right, it's a Lego question. So in total, how many Lego minifigures do you think there are on Earth? So I don't mean I mean the individual ones. You probably have a load in your collection. So if you went to every child in every country all around the Earth and you counted up how many little Lego minifigures they have in their set, and you added it all up, how many would it be? I'll give you a clue. It's in billions. So not millions, it's billions. There are billions of Lego minifigures among us. Okay, you have 5 seconds to think about this important question. Okay, right, get your answers down. Remember, you don't have to get the number exactly. It's a number of billions, but whoever's closest in your class or your quiz group is going to get the bonus point. Okay, the answer is 9 billion. And this amazingly means that there are more Lego minifigures on Earth than there are human beings, which is extraordinary. And so we've had to phone up Lego to find this out. We phoned up the Lego factory. We asked them how many they made each year, how many sold, how many going back into the past. And we worked out that A, there are more Lego minifigures on Earth than there are human beings. And B, we wanted to find out, well, when did they overtake us? And the answer is about in 2016. So during your lifetimes, humans stopped being the #1 creature on the planet and passed over the reins to the Lego minifigures, who are the real rulers. There's more of them than us. The other thing we found out, which is a great Lego fact, is Lego told us that they are also the world's #1 manufacturer of car tires. So they make more tires for cars, of course, they're little Lego cars, than any manufacturer of real car tires for grown-up cars. So Lego, as you say, the Lego minifigure is the true rulers of our planet. Right. Congratulations, everyone, for completing the quiz. I hope you did well. I've seen answers popping up in the webinar chat. Congratulations to the winners. And we hope you enjoyed hearing from our 2 wonderful authors.
Excellent. Thank you, Andrew. So hi, everyone. My name is Kimberly Sheehan, and I am the campaign manager here at the Reading Agency. So now it's time for where you can ask the questions. So please do put your questions in the Q&A. I can see we've already got 4, but Letizia, I'm going to come to you for the first question. Lady Royd Primary have asked, which animal's mouth and teeth surprised you the most? If you could swap mouths with one animal, which one would it be and why?
Oh, so I like the cheeks of the hamster because imagine you go shopping and you forgot your the bags, and you don't need a bag. You can just fit everything inside your mouth. Wouldn't it be great? And it keeps dry as well. Doesn't get wet with saliva. It keeps dry as well. So yeah, I would love that. It's going to look very, very weird, but useful.
Very useful. And someone else in the chat said hamster as well. So very good suggestion. And then for Christopher, which was your favorite period of history to research? And which one would you like to time travel back to?
Oh, that's so good as a question. It's so difficult to choose, but I kind of think that maybe I'd like to live in the 19th century, early 19th century, like from about 1820 to 1870, because at that time, all kinds of amazing things were happening. Like we'd get the first electricity. Wouldn't it be amazing to experience electricity for the first time? Medicine was beginning to improve. So actually you might start getting the first anesthetics, which of course would be a jolly good thing because I wouldn't want to be alive in the days before there were anesthetics if something goes wrong in my body. And then we got steam power, the first railways being built everywhere, and the whole world seemed to be transforming in a way where we weren't so aware of the damage we might be doing like we are today. And we're living in a time where there was so much innovation and so much excitement about the possibility of humans. Of course, that's only true for some people. Depends on where you live in the world, of course. For other people, of course, this whole world of industrialization became a real kind of threat and a danger to the traditional lives that they led. And I wouldn't necessarily want to be one of those at that stage. So I'd have to be quite fussy about where I was living and whether I was rich or whether I was poor. But if I was rich and I was somewhere over here, 19th century, please.
I would love to go on a steam train as well. So I think that's a very good time. Andrew, we've got a question from 4PD, and they said, how long did it take for you to research and write your book?
The answer is, as Chris knows, an enormously long time. And in fact, much longer than we were told we had to do it. Because there's so much information and facts we had to collect. I mean, there are literally thousands of facts in the book and to make up all the pictures and charts. So it took us 2.5 years, which was about a year longer than we originally planned. But it's a big book. It's over 200 and something pages. So it was great fun to do. But yeah, we had both the 3 authors who wrote it, and we had a whole team of fact checkers who were in Chicago, whose job it is every day, they work for Encyclopedias, is just to research and to check and to find amazing facts. Great job. Great job.
Right, thank you. We've got another question for Letizia from Trithor School. Sorry for pronouncing that wrong. What special ability would you like that an animal already has?
Oh, okay. So with humans, people, with our hands, we can do lots of things. But obviously, animals don't have our type of hands. So they seems magic, but they can do all sorts of things. And I was thinking, for example, Animals can scoop, imagine a cat drinking milk from from a bowl on the floor. It would do it so neatly, and we wouldn't be able to. So then you have the chameleon, such a long tongue, but also so fast and so sticky. We don't have that feature. And and all these animals that lose their teeth smoothly and without any trouble. And instead we have to go through baby teeth and milk teeth and then adult teeth. So yeah, I'm a bit envious of the shark, I must say.
I like the idea of having a long sticky tongue. So if a
That'd
chocolate
be
cake
great.
walks by, you could just grab it. Very good. We've got another question for all of you. So I'll come around one at a time. Our favorite fact at Baddow Hall is that you're more likely to be killed by a falling coconut than a shark. Our question is, when you discovered you like writing or reading nonfiction? Christopher, I'll start with you, if that's okay.
When did I discover? Well, I suppose I'm in my first job. Well, I worked in a newspaper, and I read history at university. And it was really during my years at university I realized that non-fiction storytelling was my kind of thing. And when I worked on a newspaper, I started having to be infinitely curious every day when I was trying to find stories for the newspaper, and that's really shaped my whole kind of passion for writing and for reading. Is about finding stories, and they're more amazing because they're true. So it's always non-fiction.
Thank you. Letizia?
Oh, actually, I started in primary school. So I used to use all the diaries, the one from previous years that nobody wanted. So I would write there something, and I also like to do research. So for example, I find something interesting on a magazine, I cut it, and then I stick it on my diary. In that way, I create stories. And also I add stickers. So rather than just sticking the stickers on my diary, I would create a story with the stickers. So yeah, I started like that, and then I realized, actually writing is fun, and actually searching all this information is super fun. And yeah, then I continued, and now I'm a science communicator, so I do it as a job.
Great. Thank you. And Andrew?
Well, I started out like Chris as a journalist working at a newspaper, but the first time I started doing creating children's nonfiction was when the What on Earth team asked me to write this book. It's a bit blurry, can't see. It's called Listified. It's got a silver cover that's deliberately designed to match my jacket. That's where the jacket came from. And I did this during the first lockdown, with COVID, where everyone was at home and my daughter was at home with me. And it was just so, like Chris said, it was just so fun that my job every single day was just to research and look up amazing, mind-blowing facts and put them all in a book. And I loved it so much. And now that's all I do. I edit the magazine you saw earlier, which is like our books, What on Earth magazine, and also been helping writing the book. So yeah, once you, like Chris, once you sort of, and a teacher as well, once you fall in love with it and the universe of knowledge, it's just endless fun.
Lovely, thank you. We've got another question. This one's from 4KS class in Chelmsford. We love nature in our class. What is your favourite non-fiction book about nature or the climate? We are also learning about teeth in our science class, so that's good. So I expect they get all of the teeth questions correct. So I'll start with you, Andrew. So what is your favourite non-fiction book about nature or the climate, if you know?
Yeah, there's a great book. I don't have a copy of right to hand, but there's a book that we produced called How to Teach Grown-ups About Climate Change, which is really brilliant and funny. And it's making the point that I'm sure lots of the children watching this will agree with, which is that children now know a lot more about the climate change and the environment and what needs to be done than grown-ups like me. I know my daughter does. So the idea of this book is you can read it. It's full of amazing cartoons and interesting facts, and it tells the story of the climate of our planet and what we can all do to help improve it in the future. But it's also designed so because you know a lot of this stuff already, can then, how do you explain to your parents and your grandparents, and how do you convince them and persuade them, because they or other ones need persuading, because the younger generation seem completely, it's already come up in the thread, are completely on board with this idea. So yeah, it's a brilliant book.
Letizia?
Oh, yes. So I was never 100% satisfied with the let's say, with the material that the teacher would give us. So I wanted to know more and more. So when I was a child, I had Encyclopedia. So those days we had really paper encyclopedias, not so much online. So, and I would look for topics of interest on this children's encyclopedia, and it was written very well, and it had a lot of pictures. So I really liked it. I like very colorful books. So, and this was how I started, actually. So I would, if a teacher gives me an essay to write or some question, so I would start from the school book, but then I'm like, no, I want to know more. Then I would go to the encyclopedia and find a lot of information, and go for that as well. Yeah, and of course, everybody was really impressed because I knew more than the average. So I was, okay, good.
Be very good to know in a quiz as well, wouldn't you? I like to have you on my quiz team because I didn't do very well on the quiz. Over to you, Christopher.
Well, I was very lucky a few years ago to team up with the Prince's Foundation, which is was set up by Prince Charles, now King Charles, of course, who's a real advocate for putting nature first. And we did this book about trying to tell children that it's up to us, that give them, rather like Andrew was saying, the stories that they can share with their parents about why nature matters and what it means to put nature first. We didn't have very long to do this book because we wanted it to be ready in time for something called COP26, which was in Scotland a few years ago. So we had to do it in a really short space of time. So instead of having one illustrator, which is what you normally do to have a book, we ended up having a different illustrator for every spread. So we had 33 illustrators, and then we got them from all over the world. We had illustrators in China, or we had them in Iran, in Argentina, in Russia, in Europe, and it became this incredible kind of celebration of storytelling through amazing pictures through the lens of all the different cultures you can imagine. And that wasn't something we kind of imagined in the first place. That's how the book turned out, and it was really one of the most exciting and rewarding projects that I've ever been involved with, and it's called It's Up to Us.
Lovely, thank you. So maybe there's lots of illustrators on the call as well as authors of non-fiction in the future, which would be great. We've got two more questions, which is perfect, I think, for the timing. So the first question is, what was your favorite subject at school? What was your favorite book when you were a kid? So there's two questions in that one, I'm afraid. Christopher, can I start with you? I think I can probably guess your favorite subject, but
Well, it's interesting you say that because you might think, well, history, because that's what I studied. But actually, at school, I like the sciences. I love biology, and actually, this is why I think that the divisions between subjects are such nonsense, really, because science is really history, and history is all about science. It's all connected. But I love my science lessons, and my biology particularly, and chemistry. So that would be my favorite book. Well, there was a series of encyclopedias which Letizia mentioned, but called the Hamlin books, and there was a Hamlin book of why. And I always remember just, spending hours and hours, before going to bed, just leafing through the pages, and every page would sort of engage you with a completely different question about why. And so since then, we've done our own big book of why. And we've just done a big book of how. And I just think it's a lovely way of using questions as a way of opening up a universe of knowledge to young people. It's certainly had a big impact on me.
thank you. Letizia?
My favorite book was Matilda, and I don't think I had like a favorite subject for a long time. Only later on, maybe when I was 16 years old, then was definitely something related to sciences, for sure, scientific topics. But for a very long time, I enjoyed a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Andrew?
Oh, well, my favorite subject was English, just because I loved books and reading. I just did my whole time. I'm sure many of the people in school just loved reading, whatever it was, didn't matter what. And my favorite book at that kind of age, my daughter's reading it now actually, and my dad gave it to me, so he was a fan of it when he was a boy. It's a book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So it's really funny, and it's fiction, but there's actually a lot of proper science in there, and it's about some people who take a kind of tour of the galaxy, and they go traveling, meeting all these amazing people, and go on different planets. And it's also really funny, so it's a great book.
Great, thank you. And the time has flown and it's now the end of the call. So thank you all so much for joining us. And a big thank you for Andrew, Letizia and Christopher for giving up their time. And we will be sharing the recording so you can watch it again and do the quiz and make sure you win. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.